Sometimes the truth can be painful, but only by facing it can we truly be free. My story today is a lesson in courage, honesty, and how to overcome manipulation to rediscover yourself. If you are also on a journey to face challenges, don't forget to hit like, leave your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel to join me in exploring truly inspiring stories. My name is Ryan Carter, and I'm a software developer. I've always been one to dive deep into code, creating applications that not only function but innovate. While many people in my field often work for big corporations, I've carved my own path, starting my own independent business, developing cutting-edge software solutions for startups. It hasn't been easy, but I've built my career from the ground up. I make a comfortable living, but the hours are long and the work can be grueling. Still, I wouldn't trade it for anything. But there's one thing I didn't account for: my in-laws. It's been a year since I married Sophia Williams, my college sweetheart. Sophia is brilliant, a rising star in the world of financial consulting. She's ambitious, determined, and always in control. We make a great team except when it comes to her parents. Her mother, Monica, and father, Maxwell, have always looked down on me. To them, I'm just the tech guy with no real understanding of business, not someone worthy of their daughter. They don't say it outright, but it's in everything they do. The condescending remarks, the raised eyebrows, the constant comments about how I should settle down and focus on something more stable. Maxwell, in particular, has always been the hardest to please. He's a high-powered CEO of a real estate conglomerate, the type of man who measures success in stock portfolios and investment properties. To him, anyone who works in technology is just a cog in the machine, easily replaceable, and never the type of person he'd want as part of his family. Monica is a bit more subtle, always complimenting my work, but in a way that implies it's a mere hobby, something I'll grow out of. Every family dinner is the same. Sophia tries to smooth things over, but I can see the tension in her eyes as she squeezes my hand under the table, silently apologizing for her parents. They criticize my career, make snide remarks about my freelance lifestyle, and question my ability to provide for Sophia. It's exhausting. Tonight, we're supposed to have another dinner at her parents' house to celebrate their anniversary. I know what's coming. Maxwell will brag about his latest acquisitions. Monica will try to convince me that I need to diversify my skills, and I'll be forced to sit there and take it, pretending that it doesn't bother me. We arrive at their mansion in the upscale part of town. The house is as grand as you'd expect, filled with opulent furniture and art pieces that scream wealth. As we enter, Monica greets us with a forced smile, and Maxwell is already holding court in the living room, regaling guests with stories of his latest business triumphs. Sophia kisses me on the cheek as she heads into the kitchen to help her mother with the dinner preparations. I take a seat on the couch, trying to avoid the conversation, but it's only a matter of time before they corner me. Monica sits beside me, her tone friendly but insincere. "Ryan, darling," she begins, "have you thought more about your future? You know, maybe it's time to expand your horizons a bit. There's a lot of money in finance, you know." I smile tightly. "I'm happy where I am, Monica." She tilts her head, her smile never quite reaching her eyes. "Well, I just want to make sure you're thinking ahead. You know how hard it can be to keep up with the pace of the market, especially in your line of work. It's the same conversation we've had 100 times. They think I'm wasting my potential, that my work doesn't have the stability they deem necessary for a successful life. And every time I hear it, it chips away at my confidence. making me question whether I'm really doing enough. But I'm not here to get into another argument. I take a deep breath and nod, pretending to listen. As the night wears on, I can feel the pressure building inside me. I just want to get through this dinner and go home, away from the constant scrutiny. Little do I know, this evening will mark the beginning of something far more complicated than I ever could have imagined. Dinner was almost over. The guests had all left, and the house felt oddly empty, save for the clinking of silverware as Monica cleared the table. Maxwell was in the study, talking business with a few of his colleagues. I could feel Sophia's gaze on me as she helped her mother, but I tried not to make eye contact. The tension had been thick all evening, and I could tell she was just as exhausted as I was from the constant stream of subtle insults. "You look tired," she whispered as she walked past me on her way to the kitchen. "I'm fine," I muttered, leaning back in my chair, just ready for the night to end. We had only been married a year, but the cracks in our relationship were becoming more noticeable. We loved each other, of that I was certain, but the constant strain of her parents' expectations was starting to take a toll. I wanted to make her proud, but it seemed like nothing I did was ever enough for them. They still saw me as an outsider, someone who didn't fit their mold of what was acceptable for their daughter. I picked up my drink, a glass of scotch that Monica had practically shoved into my hand earlier. It burned as I took a sip, and I tried to focus on the faint buzz in my head to drown out the conversations echoing from across the room. But I was interrupted when Monica walked in, her expression a little too cheery. "Ryan, darling, there's something I've been meaning to talk to you about," she said, her voice a little too sweet for my liking. I raised an eyebrow, setting my glass down. "What's going on, Monica?" She pulled up a chair next to me, lowering her voice slightly. "You see, Maxwell and I have been discussing your career recently. We think it's time you took on something a bit more ... substantial." I felt my jaw tighten. Here we go again. "What do you mean?" I asked, trying to keep my tone neutral. Monica smiled, though there was something calculating in her eyes. "Maxwell has a lot of connections in the tech industry. We've been talking to some people about a potential partnership, a real business venture. We think you could be a perfect fit for a new project that's coming up." I stared at her, not sure if I was hearing things correctly. A business venture? What kind of project? She leaned in a little closer, her voice almost a whisper. "It's a partnership that could help solidify your future, Ryan. You're good with tech, but you've been doing everything on your own for too long. It's time to play with the big boys. Maxwell thinks it's a great opportunity for you, a real chance to step up." I wasn't sure if I should be flattered or suspicious. What's the catch? Monica's eyes flickered, and for the briefest moment, I saw something darker behind her smile. "Oh, no catch, Ryan. Just think about it. We can introduce you to the right people, give you the right tools to succeed. You won't have to do it all by yourself anymore. Maxwell's ready to help you. It's the kind of offer that doesn't come around often." I sat there, feeling the weight of her words sink in. I'd built my business from the ground up, refusing to rely on anyone but myself. But this was different. Was she trying to manipulate me, or was it a genuine offer? "You'll think it over, won't you?" Monica added, her voice almost too smooth. Before I could respond, I heard the door open behind me. Sophia stepped in, her face unreadable. "What's going on here?" she asked, her gaze flicking between me and her mother. Monica straightened up quickly, her smile widening. "Oh, nothing, darling. Just having a little chat with Ryan. We were discussing a new opportunity for him, something that could really help him out in the long run." Sophia's expression faltered for a moment. I could see the doubt in her eyes, the same look she always had when her parents tried to help me out. She didn't want to admit it, but I could tell she wasn't sure if this was a good idea either. Still, she smiled faintly and walked over to my side. "Are you okay with this, Ryan?" she asked softly. I took a deep breath, glancing over at Monica, who was watching me closely. "I'll think about it," I said, my voice tight. "But I don't like the feeling that this comes with strings attached." Monica's smile didn't waver. "Of course, take your time. But remember, opportunities like this don't last forever." As Sophia and I made our way out of the room, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Monica and Maxwell didn't do anything without an ulterior motive. The only question was, what was their real agenda, and what were they trying to pull me into? It was clear this wasn't just about helping me, this was about control, and I wasn't sure how much longer I could play along. The next few days felt like a blur. Monica's offer sat in the back of my mind, gnawing at me like a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. I tried to push it aside, focusing on my work, but the more I thought about it, the more I began to suspect that this wasn't just a simple business opportunity. There had to be something else going on, something I wasn't seeing. Sophia noticed my distraction, of course. She's always been able to read me better than anyone. That afternoon, she sat down across from me while I was working, looking at me with concern in her eyes. "Ryan, you've been quiet since dinner. What's going on?" she asked, her voice gentle but firm. I sighed and set my laptop down, running a hand through my hair. "It's that offer from your parents. Something about it just doesn't feel right." Sophia's expression immediately shifted. She'd been through this before, her parents' helpful suggestions, their constant interference in our lives. But I could see the conflict in her eyes, the desire to support me and the need to protect her family. "What do you mean?" she asked, leaning forward. "I know my mum can be intense, but she's trying to help. She wants you to succeed." I shook my head. "It's not just that, Sophia. They've been undermining me for months, trying to control my career, and now suddenly they have a business opportunity for me. It just feels like another way for them to pull the strings, to get me into something I don't want. I built my business on my own, without anyone's help, and I'm not going to let them dictate my future." Sophia looked conflicted. "I know you're capable, Ryan, but they're my parents, and they want what's best for me, for us. Can't you at least consider it?" I didn't answer right away. I could feel the pressure of her words, the subtle pull to just give in and accept their offer. But I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just about business, it was about control. Monica and Maxwell wanted me to fall in line with their vision for my life, and that vision didn't involve me running my own independent company. After a long pause, I finally spoke. "I'll think about it, but I need to figure out exactly what they're up to before I make any decisions." That night, as I lay in bed, the thoughts swirled in my mind. I knew I couldn't ignore the red flags anymore. I had to investigate. The next morning, I began by looking into Maxwell's business dealings. He was a powerful man, connected to nearly every real estate development project in the city. If there was anything shady going on, it would be tied to him. I started digging into Maxwell's finances, using my skills to track down public records and connections. At first, it was slow going. Maxwell's business was tightly controlled, with little information slipping through the cracks. But after a few hours of searching, I stumbled across something that made my blood run cold. A series of offshore bank accounts linked to a number of companies I didn't recognize. They weren't listed as legitimate business entities. They looked more like fronts. My heart raced as I realized what I had found. Monica and Maxwell weren't just offering me a partnership, they were trying to rope me into something much darker. I had to be careful. I couldn't just confront them yet. I needed more information, something concrete that would expose their true intentions. The following day, I met with Lucas Evans, an old college friend who had worked in finance for years. I knew Lucas wasn't involved in anything illegal, but he had a sharp mind for business and could help me navigate the maze of financial records I'd uncovered. "I think your in-laws are into something big, something they don't want you to see," I told him, my voice low. Lucas raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean? Are you talking about their investments?" "Not just investments," I replied. "I've found some offshore accounts linked to some shady companies. I think they're involved in money laundering, or worse." Lucas didn't hesitate. "Let's get to the bottom of this. I can help you track down more details, figure out who's behind these companies." That was when I knew I wasn't just dealing with overbearing in-laws, I was stepping into a dangerous game. If Monica and Maxwell were hiding something this big, I needed to expose them before they could manipulate me any further. Sophia deserved better than to be caught in the middle of their mess, and I wasn't going to let them destroy everything I had worked so hard to build. But if I was going to win this fight, I had to be smart. No more reacting emotionally. It was time to play the game on my terms. With Lucas's help, I began to uncover more than I ever expected. More twists, more deceit, and more people involved than I had ever imagined. But one thing was certain, this wasn't just about business anymore. This was about taking control of my own future, and I was ready for whatever came next. The more I dug into Maxwell and Monica's financial empire, the deeper I sank into a web of corruption I hadn't fully anticipated. With Lucas's help, we began piecing together the puzzle of offshore accounts, front companies, and mysterious transactions. But every step forward seemed to open up a new question, a new mystery. And I was beginning to realize that this wasn't just about my in-laws' desire to control. MIT was something far more sinister. We had been working late into the night, going through bank records, legal filings, and obscure real estate deals, when Lucas called me with a breakthrough. "Ryan, I found something," he said, his voice tight with excitement. "A connection between your father-in-law's company and some unsavory people. There's a real estate deal in the works, something that's tied to a series of illegal transactions. It's all coming together now." My heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean, what people?" "I'm digging through the data now, but it looks like there are links to a network of money launderers. The companies involved aren't just shell corporations, they've been used to funnel large amounts of cash through international accounts. And it's all tied to Maxwell's real estate deals. This goes beyond just shady investments. We're talking serious criminal activity." The implications of Lucas's discovery hit me like a punch to the gut. My father-in-law Sophia's father was involved in something much darker than I'd ever imagined. This wasn't just a business deal gone wrong. This was a criminal network, and I was unknowingly entangled in it. I paced around my small office, trying to wrap my head around the situation. How had I not seen this before? I had known Maxwell was ambitious, ruthless even, but I never imagined he could be involved in something so illegal. And now, I realized, Monica had been a part of it too. She was the mastermind behind the scenes, manipulating not just me, but everyone around her to keep their empire running smoothly. I knew I couldn't just confront them yet. I needed more proof, something solid enough to take action. But I couldn't shake the feeling that time was running out. Monica and Maxwell had already proven they weren't afraid to pull strings behind the scenes. And if they found out I was onto them, There was no telling how far they'd go to silence me. The next morning, I met with Lucas again. We decided to take a more direct approach, working with an investigative journalist who could help us track down the final pieces of the puzzle. Lucas had connections with a reporter named Clara, a former financial analyst who had made a name for herself exposing corporate corruption. She was skeptical at first, but after a few calls, she agreed to meet with us. "We need to be careful," Clara warned as we sat down at a coffee shop, the city's noise buzzing outside. "If these people are as powerful as you say they are, we're playing with fire." "I'm not afraid," I replied, my voice low but firm. "We've got to expose them before they ruin everything." Clara nodded, taking out a notebook and jotting down the details Lucas and I had uncovered so far. "I'll make some calls, do some digging, but I need you both to stay under the radar for now. Once I have everything, we'll go public. This isn't just about your family anymore, Ryan. This is about stopping something that could hurt a lot of people." As we left the coffee shop, I couldn't shake the sense that everything was about to spiral out of control. The pieces were falling into place, but I still felt the weight of the situation pressing down on me. I was in deeper than I ever expected, and every choice from here on out would determine how this ended. One thing was clear: I couldn't back down now. Not when I had the truth in my hands. Not when the stakes had gotten this high. The game had changed, and I was ready to play it my way. No more hiding. No more playing by their rules. I would expose Maxwell and Monica for who they really were, no matter what it took. The next few days felt like a waiting game. Lucas, Clara, and I had done everything we could, gathering evidence, tracing financial transactions, and connecting the dots between Maxwell and Monica's empire of shell companies. Clara had reached out to some of her trusted sources, and the information she uncovered was damning. But there was still a nagging feeling in the back of my mind. Monica and Maxwell were powerful people. They controlled so much money, influence, even their daughter. If they found out we were onto them, I couldn't predict what they would do next. My mind kept replaying the dinner where Monica had first floated the idea of a business opportunity for me. I couldn't ignore the sinister undertones in her words. This wasn't just about business, it was about maintaining control. Sophia had noticed my distance, and though I tried to keep my emotions in check, I couldn't hide the tension from her. Every time we were together, she would catch me staring off, lost in thought. I hated that I couldn't tell her the full extent of what I'd discovered, but the truth was, she was already caught in the crossfire. If I revealed everything now, it could tear her apart. One evening, after a quiet dinner at home, Sophia spoke up. Her voice was soft, but carried the weight of the concern she'd been holding in. "Ryan, you've been distant lately. I know something's bothering you. What's going on?" she asked, her eyes searching mine. I put down my fork, feeling the familiar tightness in my chest. I wanted to tell her everything, but how could I? How could I explain that her parents, people she trusted, were involved in something that could ruin us all? "I'm just dealing with some things at work," I said, trying to sound casual. "It's nothing to worry about." Sophia frowned but didn't push. She had her own pressures to deal with at work, and I knew she was trying to balance everything. But I could see the hurt in her eyes, the hurt that came from my refusal to open up. She didn't understand, and I didn't want to drag her further into this mess. The next day, I met with Clara again. She had secured more information, but I could tell something had shifted in her demeanor. Her usual confidence was tempered by a hint of caution. "I've been going through Maxwell's latest project," Clara began, her voice low. "It's a massive real estate development, but here's the thing, there's a backdoor deal. Some of the contractors he's working with, They're connected to organized crime groups, and the money isn't just flowing through legitimate channels. This is bigger than I thought. I leaned forward, my heart pounding. So they're laundering money through this deal? Clara nodded. Exactly. And if the authorities get wind of this, Maxwell and Monica will be implicated, but not just them. This whole network of criminals will be exposed. If we take this public, it will destroy everything they've built. I felt a rush of adrenaline and fear. This was it. This was the chance to take them down once and for all. But there was still so much at stake. If I exposed them now, there was no going back. Sophia would lose everything she had ever known. Her family would be in ruins. I would be the one who brought it all crashing down. I don't care what happens to them, I said, my voice steady but with a simmering anger behind it. They've been pulling the strings for too long, manipulating me and everyone around them. But we need to be smart about this. If we move too soon, they'll destroy the evidence, and we'll be left with nothing. Clara agreed, but there was a dark cloud hanging over us. We needed more time to gather concrete evidence, and I needed to prepare for the inevitable fallout. It wasn't just about getting the truth out, it was about surviving what would come after. As the days passed, I felt the tension building, and I knew that the storm was coming. Monica and Maxwell were about to find out that their carefully constructed world of lies was starting to unravel. And when it did, it would be nothing short of catastrophic. But the question still lingered in my mind: how much of a price would I have to pay to expose the truth? Would I lose Sophia in the process? Would she ever forgive me for dragging her family's secrets into the light? I didn't have the answers yet, but I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't backing down. Not now, not ever. The following days after my meeting with Clara and Lucas were a blur of nerves, anticipation, and mounting tension. Every moment I spent in the office felt like a countdown, the seconds ticking away as I tried to focus on my work. But in reality, my mind was consumed by the thought of what was to come. The evidence we had gathered was enough to destroy Monica and Maxwell's carefully crafted facade. But I couldn't shake the fear of what would happen once the truth was exposed. Sophia still didn't know what was going on. I had to keep my distance, knowing that if I told her everything now, it would be a bombshell that would tear our relationship apart. I loved her, but I knew this wasn't something she was ready for. She believed in her parents, in the idea that they always had their best interests at heart, even if they were a little overbearing. She had no idea how deep the manipulation went, and I wasn't sure how to make her understand. I was about to find out just how much her family was willing to sacrifice to maintain their grip on her life. It was a Friday night when the storm finally hit. I had just wrapped up a late meeting when my phone buzzed. I picked it up, expecting a text from Lucas or Clara, but it was from Sophia. "Ryan, we need to talk. Meet me at the house." I stared at the message for a moment, my heart sinking. This wasn't a casual chat. The urgency in her words made my pulse quicken. I knew something was wrong, and deep down, I knew this moment had arrived, the moment when everything would come crashing down. I had prepared for this, but that didn't make it any easier. I drove to her parents' mansion, the streets feeling emptier than usual as I navigated the familiar route. Every turn felt heavy, laden with the weight of everything I had uncovered. My mind raced with 1,000 thoughts. How would she react? Would she hate me for keeping the truth from her for so long? When I arrived, Sophia was already inside. I could see the outline of her through the large windows, standing by the fireplace. Her back was to me, but I could tell by her posture that something was off. She wasn't standing like the confident, poised woman I knew. She was tense, waiting for something, waiting for me. I stepped inside, closing the door behind me quietly. Sophia. She turned, her face pale, her eyes swollen from crying. I had never seen her look so vulnerable, and it broke something inside me. Ryan, she whispered, her voice trembling. I don't know what to believe anymore. My parents, they've been lying to me. To us. The air seemed to thicken, and I felt the room close in around me. I took a step forward, trying to gather the words I knew I had to say. Listen, I know you're angry, but this isn't your fault. It's not just about them manipulating me. It's about what they've been hiding from you, too. She shook her head, as if she couldn't comprehend what I was saying. No, I knew something was off. I knew they weren't being honest with me, but I never imagined it was this bad. I walked toward her slowly, reaching for her hands. Sophia, I didn't want to drag you into this. I thought I could handle it on my own. But it's too big. I've found things, Sophia. Things about your parents' business. About what they've been doing behind your back. It's worse than you think. Tears welled up in her eyes. What are you saying, Ryan? What's going on? I paused, swallowing hard. It wasn't just a matter of telling her about the shady real estate deals or the offshore accounts. It was about shattering her world. Her trust in the people who raised her. But I couldn't lie anymore. They're involved in a network of money laundering. Sophia, your dad, your mum, they've been using their businesses to hide illegal transactions. I didn't want to believe it, but I found the proof. She stumbled back, her hands flying to her face in disbelief. No, that can't be true. I nodded slowly, my heart aching for her. I wish it weren't, but it is, and I've been working with people to expose them, to stop it before it gets worse. I never wanted to hurt you, Sophia. I didn't want you to have to face this. For a long moment, she didn't say anything. I could see her processing the information, her mind racing, trying to make sense of it all. I didn't expect her to understand right away, but I couldn't help but feel the weight of her silence pressing down on me. Finally, she spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. What do we do now? I looked at her, feeling both fear and determination surge through me. Now, we expose them. We stop the lies. We don't let them control us anymore. And with that, the final decision had been made. We were going to fight back, together. The days after our conversation felt like a whirlwind. Sophia was struggling to process the truth I had uncovered about her parents. I could see the pain in her eyes whenever she looked at me. It was a mixture of betrayal, confusion, and hurt. She had trusted them, believed in their success and their love for her, and now everything had been shattered. And I knew, deep down, that as much as I wanted to fix this for her, there was no going back. We had agreed on one thing: the truth needed to come out. We couldn't keep living under the shadow of Monica and Maxwell's manipulations, but I could tell Sophia wasn't ready to confront them just yet. The fear of losing her family was too much for her to handle, even if it meant living in the truth. I spent the next few days collecting every last bit of evidence I could find. Lucas and Clara were invaluable, providing me with deeper insight into the financial transactions that tied Maxwell to the criminal network we had uncovered. We had everything now: the offshore accounts, the shady business dealings, the names of the people involved. But one piece still eluded us: the real connection between Maxwell's companies and the money laundering scheme. We needed to find the exact person running the operation. Without that, we couldn't expose the whole network. It wasn't long before Clara came through with a lead. She'd managed to trace a mysterious name that kept popping up in the financial records. Someone who was always just one step behind Maxwell in every transaction. The name was Henry Caldwell, a former business partner of Maxwell's, who had disappeared a few years ago under suspicious circumstances. No one knew what had happened to him, but based on Clara's digging, it seemed like he was the man running the show behind the scenes. Henry Caldwell, I muttered to myself as I leaned over the stack of documents. That's the key. I knew we had to find him. We couldn't expose Maxwell and Monica without bringing Henry into the light. But there was one problem. Henry had gone off the grid. No address, no phone number, no online presence. He'd vanished completely, as if he never existed. I spent the next few hours combing through every lead I could find on Henry. Every article, every business registry, every social connection. I knew if we could find him, we would have everything we needed, but time was running out. I could feel the walls closing in on me, the pressure mounting. And then it came to me. Henry hadn't disappeared. He had been hiding in plain sight. The company that he supposedly disappeared from was still in operation, but under a different name. I couldn't believe it was a shell game. Henry had moved his operations to a new firm, one that Maxwell was still heavily invested in. That night, I couldn't sleep. I couldn't stop thinking about what I had discovered. This was bigger than I had ever imagined. Maxwell and Monica weren't just criminals. They were part of a network that reached further than I'd ever thought possible. And if I exposed them now, it wasn't just their empire that would come crashing down. It was Sophia's world. I needed to act, but I also needed to protect Sophia. She wasn't ready to face this yet, and as much as I wanted to bring it all into the light, I knew I couldn't force her to confront her parents. The decision weighed heavily on me, but I knew one thing for sure. It was time to take the next step. We had the proof, and we had to expose it before they could bury it again. The next morning, I called Clara. I think I found him. Henry Caldwell. He's not missing. He's hiding in plain sight. Clara's voice crackled with excitement on the other end. Ryan, this could change everything. We need to move fast. I took a deep breath. Let's do it. I wasn't sure what would happen next. I didn't know how Sophia would react when she found out everything. But I knew one thing. I wasn't backing down. It was time to bring the truth into the open, no matter the cost. The morning after I had discovered Henry Caldwell's involvement, I barely slept. The pressure weighed on me like a ton of bricks. The pieces were finally falling into place, but I couldn't shake the fear of what would happen once everything came out. Maxwell and Monica had controlled their lives for so long, would they give up without a fight? I wasn't sure, but I knew I was at a tipping point. There was no turning back now. I met Lucas and Clara the next afternoon at a quiet cafe. The kind of place where you could blend in and talk without anyone paying attention. We were all on edge, knowing that time was running out. If we didn't move quickly, Maxwell and Monica might find a way to bury the truth again, or worse, come after us. We've got everything, Lucas said, sliding a folder across the table. I've traced every last one of Maxwell's transactions. We're looking at not just money laundering, but illegal arms deals and offshore accounts connected to dangerous people. This isn't just a business scandal anymore. We're talking about a criminal network that spans continents. Clara nodded. We're not just exposing Maxwell and Monica. We're bringing down the entire operation they've been running for years. If we do this, there's no turning back. I felt the weight of those words. This wasn't just about my in-laws anymore. This was about dismantling an entire network that had been operating under the radar, hiding in plain sight. But as much as I knew it was the right thing to do, a part of me felt the gnawing fear of the consequences. I'm ready, I said, my voice steady despite the chaos swirling inside me. We need to expose everything, but we need to be strategic. If we go public without being fully prepared, we risk giving them the chance to cover it up again. Lucas agreed. We'll use the media, get a reporter to cover the story. We need to create enough noise that they can't hide behind their wealth and power anymore. Clara was already on the phone with her connections at a news outlet. She knew how to make a splash, how to ensure the story went viral. As she made the call, I felt a mix of hope and dread. We were about to light a fire under the very people who had made my life a living hell. But I knew that once the truth was out, it couldn't be taken back. The next few days passed in a blur of phone calls, meetings, and preparations. We couldn't afford to make any mistakes. Every detail had to be perfect. We gathered all the evidence, the financial records, the emails, the names of the people involved in the illegal deals. Lucas and Clara were doing their part, reaching out to reporters, gathering witnesses, and setting up interviews with key people who could corroborate our findings. But as the day of the reveal approached, I felt the weight of the consequences bearing down on me more than ever. Sophia still didn't know the full extent of what I had discovered, and I wasn't sure how to tell her. I had kept her in the dark for so long, trying to protect her, but now the truth was unavoidable. On the eve of our planned reveal, I sat on the edge of our bed, staring at the phone in my hand. I needed to tell her, but I didn't know where to start. How could I explain that her parents, the people she had trusted her entire life, were criminals? That everything they had built was a lie? I took a deep breath and dialed her number. She picked up on the first ring. Ryan, her voice was soft, as if she had been waiting for my call. What's going on? I can feel the tension in the air. You're not being yourself. I swallowed hard, trying to steady my breath. Sophia, there's something I need to tell you. I've uncovered the truth about your parents, the truth about everything they've been hiding, and I can't keep it from you any longer. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, and I could almost feel the walls closing in. Ryan, what are you talking about? Her voice trembled with uncertainty. I've gathered everything, proof of their illegal activities. Maxwell and Monica, they've been involved in a massive criminal network, and it's all been a lie, Sophia. Her silence was deafening. You can't be serious. I'm sorry, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. But it's true, and we're about to expose everything. The line went silent again. I knew she needed time. I just hoped I hadn't lost her completely, but there was no turning back now. The storm was coming, and nothing would ever be the same again. The following days felt like a blur of media coverage, public outrage, and escalating tension. The story we had worked so hard to expose Maxwell and Monica's criminal empire was out in the open. It was all over the news. Reporters were camping outside their mansion, talking to former business partners, digging into Maxwell's shady past, and exposing every hidden detail of the operation. But as much as I knew this was the right thing to do, as much as I had braced myself for the fallout, nothing could have prepared me for the way it felt. The first person to reach out to me was Sophia's childhood friend, Bethany. She texted me the moment the story broke. Sophia needs to know everything. She's about to get the world crashing down on her. Please, Ryan, be with her. I knew the moment was coming. Sophia would eventually find out, and I feared that when she did, it would tear her apart. I had been keeping the truth from her for so long, thinking I was protecting her, but I had underestimated how much damage the truth could do. I'd thought that by sparing her the details, I was keeping her safe, but now it felt like the storm was inevitable. The only question was, Would she stand with me? Or would she turn her back on everything we had built? I called her, my heart racing as the phone rang. When she picked up, there was an edge to her voice, something distant. "Ryan, what the hell is going on?" she asked. "How could you keep this from me? Everything I thought I knew is a lie." I swallowed hard, trying to control the panic creeping into my chest. "Sophia, I never wanted you to find out like this. I wanted to protect you, but I couldn't keep it from you anymore. The truth came out, and now we have to face it together." "I don't know if I can," she whispered, her voice breaking. "How am I supposed to face my parents? How do I even begin to deal with this? They've been lying to me my whole life, Ryan. How could they do this to us? To me?" I felt a pang of guilt, a deep ache in my chest. I had always known that this moment would come, but I never imagined it would hurt this much. "I know this is hard, Sophia, but we can get through this. We have to stick together. We'll figure this out. You're not alone in this." There was a long silence on the other end. I could hear her breathing, the weight of everything settling in. I need some time, Ryan. I can't think straight right now." "I understand," I said quietly, "but don't shut me out. I'm here for you, always." When we hung up, I sat there for a long while, staring out the window. The world was shifting beneath my feet. The fallout from exposing Maxwell and Monica was just beginning, and I had no idea how this would all play out. The media frenzy, the public outrage, the legal ramifications, everything was spiraling out of control. I couldn't help but wonder if this was the end of everything. The end of my relationship with Sophia. The end of the life we had built. But I couldn't afford to dwell on that. I had to focus on what was ahead. The truth had come out, and now it was time for the consequences. And there were many. The next few days were a blur of legal calls, interviews with reporters, and meetings with lawyers. Maxwell and Monica were scrambling, trying to save face, hiring expensive attorneys to fight the allegations. But the evidence was undeniable. Their empire was collapsing, and they had nowhere to hide. It wasn't just their business empire that was falling apart. Their personal relationships were unraveling too. Sophia's phone was ringing off the hook with calls from family members, old friends, even distant relatives, all trying to get her side of the story. They were divided, some trying to defend Monica and Maxwell, others offering their sympathy and support. But the hardest part was watching Sophia retreat into herself. She spent days in silence, barely speaking to me, locked in her head, trying to process everything. It was killing me not knowing how to help her. All I wanted was to fix it, to take the pain away, but I couldn't. I had to respect her space. The woman I loved was standing on the edge of a precipice, and I wasn't sure if she would fall or find the strength to step back. The storm wasn't over yet. The worst was still to come. But we had a chance to rebuild. If we could survive this, if Sophia could find it in herself to trust me again, maybe we could come out on the other side stronger. But as I watched the media spin their narrative, I realized that the fight was just beginning, and no matter what happened, I had to be ready for whatever came next. The days following the media storm were a blur of legal battles, public scrutiny, and quiet moments of reflection. Sophia had retreated into herself, and though I tried everything to comfort her, I knew this was a battle she had to face alone. The weight of everything she had just learned was too much to bear. Her world had been shattered, and it felt like nothing would ever be the same again. I tried to keep my distance, respecting her space, but I wasn't giving up. I couldn't. She was everything to me, and even if it felt like we were drifting apart, I knew we had a chance to rebuild. But it wasn't going to be easy. She was torn between the love she felt for her parents and the betrayal. She now understood they had inflicted on her and everyone around them. It was a war within her one. I couldn't fight for her. The media frenzy continued, and Maxwell and Monica were doing their best to save face. They were throwing money at the problem, hiring PR teams, contacting powerful contacts to minimize the damage. But the more they fought, the more the public saw them for what they truly were: manipulators, liars, and criminals. There was no coming back from this, no matter how much they tried to spin the narrative. A week after the scandal broke, Sophia finally reached out to me. Her voice on the other end of the phone was tentative, as if she were testing the waters. "Ryan, can we talk?" I felt my heart skip a beat. I had been waiting for this moment, for her to finally open up, but I knew I had to be patient. "Of course, I'm here whenever you're ready." She hesitated before speaking again. "I've been thinking a lot about everything. About my parents, about what you've done, and what it means for us." "I know this is hard, Sophia," I said, my voice gentle, "but I'm not going anywhere. Whatever happens, I'm here for you. I always will be." There was a long pause, and then she spoke again, this time with more clarity in her voice. "I've been so angry at you, at them, at myself. But what I've come to realize is that I've been living in their shadow for too long. I let them control my life, my choices, and I can't keep doing that." My heart swelled with relief. This was the breakthrough I had been waiting for. "You don't have to, Sophia. You're your own person. You're not defined by them or their mistakes." She sighed, the weight of it all still hanging over her. "I don't know what the future holds, Ryan. I don't know if I can ever truly forgive them for what they've done. But I can't keep pretending everything's fine. I need to find my own path. And I think I need to do it with you." Hearing her say that, hearing her acknowledge what we had together, brought me a sense of peace I hadn't felt in days. I knew the road ahead would be difficult, but for the first time in a long while, I felt like we were on the same side. We could rebuild together. The following weeks were a whirlwind of decisions, both personal and professional. Maxwell and Monica were fighting tooth and nail to salvage what was left of their reputation, but the walls were closing in. The investigation was moving forward, and there was nothing they could do to stop it. As the legal battle intensified, Sophia and I made a decision. We were leaving their world, their lies, and their manipulations behind. We sold our house and moved to a quiet, out-of-the-way town where we could focus on starting fresh. It wasn't about escaping the past. It was about finding a place where we could finally breathe, where we could rebuild our lives on our terms. In the end, the world didn't collapse like I feared it might. Yes, there were challenges. There always would be. But we had each other, and that was enough. We didn't need their approval, their money, or their manipulation. We had something stronger, the truth, and that truth would guide us forward, no matter what the future held. The lesson from this story is about the power of truth, self-discovery, and the strength to break free from manipulation. Ryan's journey shows that, no matter how hard it is, facing the truth is the only way to truly live freely. For so long, he kept the truth from Sophia, thinking he was protecting her. But he eventually realized that true protection comes from honesty. Exposing the lies of her parents wasn't just about taking them down. It was about Sophia finding the courage to confront her past and choose her own future. This story also highlights the importance of personal boundaries and the strength to stand up for yourself, even when it feels like the world is crumbling around you. Sophia, despite the overwhelming pain of betrayal, found the courage to choose her own path, to let go of the shadows of her parents, and to trust in herself and Ryan. In the end, it's not the external battles that define us, but how we choose to rise above them, rebuild, and honor our truth.